fairly new to this role and really excited to be here with you for reunion this morning. Tracy Perry from our team, our Associate Director of the Life Sciences, who also runs the Bobotnik Fellowship, is also here with us this morning. And this conversation, we have learned our breakfast panels during reunion need to somehow strike a balance between formal and informal and structured and unstructured. So we are not going to go heavy on content this morning because the conversations that we've all been having for the last 15 minutes are just as important as I think what we want to talk about this morning. But the healthcare initiative, if you may or may not know, our kind of role here at the school is to create a place where people who care about healthcare can stay connected, both students and alumni, and also practitioners in the field, to help advance kind of the intellectual capital and knowledge that is coming out of our faculty and their research, and also to think about high impact educational programming and how we can find more ways to help equip and prepare our students who are here to go out and lead in healthcare. And so we dabble in a lot of different types of events and social media and otherwise to kind of do some of those things. But one of the programs that we all have cared very much about is a mentorship program that HCI has run for a while now that matches alumni with current students because we really believe in the power of mentorship. But the spring bus, Narasimhan from the CEO of Novartis was on campus and his talk was focused on the power of mentorship in the life sciences and the various inflection points along the way in people's careers where they might need some additional support or an opportunity to kind of think about pivots or think about new ways to advance various enterprises that they're working on. And that got us thinking that might be a great topic for a reunion breakfast panel because we have some really fantastic mentors in our mix who have participated in our mentorship program over the years, and also we have a Bobotnik Fellow, Dan Alstead. I'll let you all introduce yourselves a little bit more, who has a really fantastic mentor in Steve Kasich, and they've kind of had a really fantastic mentor-mentee relationship over the years that we thought would be really interesting to talk about too. So we're going to keep this fairly brief, but also I think we can go as long as we need to. I was hoping that each of you could introduce yourselves and talk about either one mentor relationship or one mentee relationship when you were a mentee. I'll get to one for you, Jen. One relationship that kind of has prompted you to stay involved with mentoring, and we can start with that, and then we can kind of go from there.
I guess I'm closest to you, so I'm ready to get off. And that way we save the best for last. Rahul Mahendale, I'm class of 2003, a little bit of a recovering entrepreneur and a disruption bigot. So I've done a couple of startups. One was with one of my classmates, a company called StopLift, which was acquired by NCR. And then I also founded one of the world's first plays to quantify skin health. So skin, which is the largest organ of our body, didn't have quantified metrics to help us determine the health of that organ. Right? So if you used a moisturizer this morning and I were to ask you how much moisture is good for your skin, most of you would be like, oh, I never thought about it, right? And I don't know. And a dermatologist would get stumped. So that was the hard problem we solved. And then in 2018, got a large strategic investment from this $19 billion annual revenue German company called Evonik, after which I was just exhausted, very frankly. So I told the board I was done, rolled off, and now I'm at Deloitte. And my mandate is to stand, run, and grow future of health inspired businesses. So a lot of the over the horizon plays, next generation research platforms or genetic editing or AR, VR applications in life science and healthcare. So those are the areas I typically, or wellness, those are areas typically that I get into. Specifically, should we go through introductions and then go through the mentor-mentee, or should we continue on?
Introductions would be great.
Let's do introduction.
Okay, well, hi, good morning everyone. My name is Dan Alstead. Recent grad, but only been out 2 years, so it's nice to be back here. I haven't gone far. Kind of like was the Boston guy before I went back to school, and I've continued to just stay local to the area. I've been in biotech kind of my whole career. I started literally right across the street. It's Resilience now, but it used to be Genzyme, and so I was a co-op at Northeastern doing chemical engineering. That's where I got my co-ops, and then I got my full-time job after that as a process engineer. We're making biologics for rare diseases. I love the industry. It was really powerful having patients come in and look you in the eye and say, if you guys don't do what you do every day, I wouldn't be here. So like super powerful, and that's what kind of lit the the fire of the passion of staying involved in biotech. I come over here for lunch a lot, when working over there. That was as close as I thought I'd get to kind of being at HBS, but things turned out for the best, actually, getting the opportunity to come here and really pivot from being just an engineer and thinking about what's next. I got to stay on a little extra longer with Tracy and everybody through the Bovonic Fellowship. I met some people that were over at HMS that had a really cool new technology. That technology is in RNA manufacturing, so making RNA, so our vaccines are mRNA, right? But there's a lot of new drugs that are coming out that will be RNA, and the world doesn't really know how to make them at scale. So that was the technology that I learned about. I got to work on that last year through the Bovonic Fellowship, and we spun out. We'll get into it, but Steve was a mentor during that period of time that I identified on a whole group of folks that offered to give mentorship. I said, wow, this background is really incredible. He will explain what that is, and we'll also get into kind of how his involvement has grown, and he's really helping, I think, N+1 every day. So excited to be here and pass that up.
Hi, I'm Jen Herbach. I'm the class of 2013. It's kind of hard to believe that it's been 10 years. It doesn't feel that long. And basically spent my entire career in the biotech industry, working at a number of companies in the Bay Area. Most recently, I co-founded my own biotech. We pulled technology out of Johns Hopkins. We built a scientific team out there, and we're doing cancer vaccines. So I'm running that now and having a lot of fun, and we just raised our seed round.
Good morning. A little energy. I'm Steve Kasich. I'm, I guess, the old one up here, and I'm old of years and of hair, but I'm happy to have hair, and but young of mind.
I'm going to take that personally.
Yeah. Feel free. But,
God made a few perfect heads, the other he covered with hair.
yeah, well, actually, past year I spent a fair bit of time without, and my head's pretty good, so it all you can have both. But my background is pretty eclectic. I've done everything from consumer products, athletic footwear with Converse. Still probably the most fun industry I've ever been in. But from there, medical devices, and so went from an industry where, if everybody remembers Kurt Cobain and when he killed himself, and I remember walking into the office that morning and he's dead, but he's laying on the floor and you could see his Converse shoe, and we were all excited. So went from an industry where it was, trying to make a product cool enough that, well, one kid would kill another kid to get it, to an industry in the med device world with hemonetics, surgical blood processing, surgical cell salvage, where we were impacting 10 million lives a year. And I've said many times, you can have a pretty crappy day at the office and go home and say, well, we're helping 10 million people this year. It's a pretty neat way to make a living. So also spent a little time in aerospace, aircraft engines, metals and mining, but most of my career has been life sciences. Initially life science tools with Millipore, ultimately sold that company to Merck KGaA, and then went and founded two companies, the first one being Gallus Biopharmaceuticals, which was a contract manufacturer of mammalian cell culture products that had been a underutilized site of J&J that we made into a business. And then also, after we sold that to Patheon, now part of Thermo Fisher, founded what's called Brammer Bio, and Brammer was the preeminent cell and gene therapy contract manufacturer, now also part of Thermo Fisher. So every time I drive up 128, I do tip my hat and say thank you. So it's made for a pretty good life. I've done a fair bit of board work. Cognate, which is a cell and gene therapy CDMO company, now part of Charles River Labs, and currently working with Dan at N+1 Bio, as well as another large contract manufacturer, Corden Pharma. So eclectic in background, but life science is really where it's been, and it's a great place. The mentorship role, and we'll certainly talk more about it, I've probably had 5 or 6 folks through HBS who I've been connected to for mentoring. I'd say I've had what I view as successful mentoring, and a lot of that, Dan, goes to you, and we'll see how successful it ultimately is economically, but certainly on a personal basis, it's been an absolute pleasure, and enjoying working with him and his team, and we'll talk more about it, but I just want to touch that in my book, 98% of the success of any mentoring is on the mentee, not the mentor, because you can't pull them along, so just part of the topic.
Well, maybe we can segue into, I think you segued into, the mentor-mentee model. Maybe, you can talk about your mentor, you talked about your mentees. Maybe you have any role models from a mentor perspective?
So I've had several, what I'd consider informal mentors now. I've been fortunate, most of the mentors I've had have been people I've actually worked for. And I think that it's a little bit of either an important distinction or a false distinction, and I'm not sure which, because, mentoring to me is just very simply caring as much about the individual as it is about the job you're doing and working on. In fact, after I've since joined the board, and in fact chair the board of the company that Dan and his co-founders put together. But at our last board meeting in the closed session, I said to the other investors, this is great, this is great, this is great. Just remember, I care more about, quote, the three founders than the company, which isn't 100% true, but it's kind of true, right? We're not going to do stupid things for the company because of the way I care about and want to help the teamwork. But it is a little bit of a different mindset, just remembering the human side of what you're doing, not just the corporate side. So we'll talk more as we get into a piece of that. But it's really, how do you want to connect with people? And do you want to just connect on a P&L and a balance sheet? Or do you want to connect on a more personal level? And I think I've had plenty of each connection over the years, and they can each be successful in their own way. But the people that you care about on a personal basis, to me, that's what makes it a mentoring relationship, regardless of whether you work together, don't work together, report to each other, or only talk once a month, once a quarter, once a year. I've had all kinds of different relationships.
Jen, your mentor-mentee? Sorry.
Yeah, it's, so I guess a couple thoughts. I think for me, when I think back kind of on mentor-mentee relationships and just even, my time at HBS and kind of signing up for like the HCI mentee program. And I actually still keep in touch with one of my mentors from that program. We actually get lunch from this every year, which has been really great. I think one of the things for me that was really interesting, at least starting out now, kind of having both of those relationships, being a mentor for some, and then also having been a mentee of many others, is just seeing the relationship shift over time, where originally it starts kind of almost very one-sided, where it's like the mentor is really helping out, or I've been really helped out, like helping me find a job, kind of giving me advice, helping me make all that stuff. And then kind of as our careers progress, kind of having some of that relationship shift to being very like much more on equal playing fields and helping each other. And I think that's one of the things for me that I've really enjoyed, and also seen it too with some of like, actually one of my HCI mentees, when I decided to make a career shift, she actually sat me into the area she's now in. She actually sat me down, we sat down, and she kind of walked me through and actually made a ton of introductions for me and really helped me make that career shift. So I think it's just been really wonderful to kind of, I think back actually to someone, it was actually a classmate of mine at HBS, and kind of some of his advice when he thinks about it was always think about how you can help your mentor. Like, don't view it as just one-sided. Think about how you can build that relationship and you can help each other. And I think that's been really helpful and really wonderful to see that kind of, that shift over time.
Yeah, I mean, so I'd echo like a two-way street. So this is really, so I'm starting out, like I haven't been the mentor role really at all yet. So I've been on the mentee side. And to just like kind of share what I think like works well, like between like, Steve and my relationship is that a little bit of, Steve could be doing many things. Like there's a lot of people that he could be mentoring. I take that as like it's a really kind thing that he wanted to come on and help. The first thing, he said was like, how can I help? That was the first thing that we said when we sat down. And I truly believed it, and it's continued on. And when we have those conversations, I have things I need to go to him, and we're doing a board pack. It's he's respectful enough to tell me when things aren't good enough and when they need to be better. And I know that it comes from a place of he wants actually the best for me and the best for the company, and then I can reciprocate by doing the hard work, making sure things right, because I feel like a lot of those things are a reflection of his mentorship when I go and present something to the board, because it's gotten his kind of approval on it. So I really enjoy that, and I think if I were to have a mentee, those are the kinds of things that I would expect. And not speaking for Steve, but I think that that's probably why this has worked well, because it's a two-way street. Steve's gonna tell me when things need to be better, and I have the respect enough to put the energy and effort and time into trying to be good on that, because he's got a lot of good advice, and I take it to heart.
Rule number one, however, is?
So rule number one, working with Steve. Steve has many Steve-isms. I'm always gonna tell you what I think. Doesn't always mean I'm right. And I really appreciate that. And I think as we've gotten comfortable working with each other, I can see that if you come with a good argument, that we can have that back and forth. And that's what feels good. It's not this just top down, you gotta do it this way. I've seen it done before. And so that back and forth actually makes, I think, for better decisions, hopefully, that we make.
And just continuing the thread, right? So I think being incredibly fortunate to have some really good mentors, and I would put them into formal and informal buckets. From a formal perspective, with you kids, Clay Christensen was one of my mentors. So he very heavily influenced by the whole disruption, the disruptive theory thought process. And Clay wanted me to be one of the first few employees at his firm. Was too small, so he opened up some doors at Deloitte, where I ended up founding the disruptive innovation practice. And then he continued to be very engaged, and then through my startup, both my startups actually, Stoplift and also MySkin, he was always there. So those, there were a bunch, and then of course, one of our former class of '87, Frank Swee, he founded the Mitchell Madison Group. I mean, even now, I'll probably get a text message from him every day, and for the past 20 years. I mean, we'll be doing, it's astounding. Harold Stolzenberg, who founded one of the world's highest-end skincare brands called La Prairie, still very much in touch at a regular level, not just because I have something professional to engage them on. So I think there are these formal mentors, and actually I have my friend Maria, she's kind of an informal mentor in a way, because she works with animal health. I knew nothing about animal health, and I'll call her, and she's incredibly kind to share lots of insights from an animal health perspective. So she's never heard me say this, but these are kind of an informal mentoring perspective too, because they help you grow at the sense of it. Mentees, again, it's just wanting to give it forward. I mean, of course, with the institute, the initiative, I have a bunch of kids who all want to talk about different career perspectives. I mean, unfortunately, none of them are in Boston. Everybody's either in the Bay Area or in LA and San Diego. And I was like, okay. So otherwise, would have loved to have somebody here. But just talking about career things and just different things, right? And I would look at mentors, when you are evaluating mentors, I would probably look at it from three perspectives, right? First is accessibility. Second is insight. And third is authenticity. So from an accessibility perspective, you've already caught on my narrative. These guys are accessible. Do not waste your time on people who are not accessible. The title doesn't matter, accessibility matters, right? So being able to send them an email, text message, you got a response back, understanding whatever the constraints may be. That's really, really important. Insight is number two, right? And insight doesn't necessarily need to be, actually, too many of us focus on business insight. I would actually prioritize life insight. Because when you're doing a startup, and two phenomenal startups. It's actually an introspective journey into yourself. It's about waking up every day and saying, what the hell am I doing? Should I quit? And saying that every hour for as many years as you're running a startup.
You can't quit because you have to go to yourself.
Exactly.
You want to
Yeah, but you need insight from a life perspective. How do you manage these stresses? How do you manage your spouse relationship? How do you manage your kid? It's astounding. Like a lot of things is, my Frank will always joke, he's like, sometimes I feel I'm your therapist. And then he turns around and he says, well, you are my therapist too, because he made me an advisor to one of his startups, right? So it was really, so I think the second part was insight, strategic as well as pieces from a personal perspective. Strategic, I'm not going to spend time because everybody understands where do you go to market, pricing, messaging. I mean, all those things are really important from a professional perspective. Last is authenticity, and I think Steve, you and Dan, you made it. As he said, I'll tell you what's on my mind, and you may not like it. Basically, what he's saying is authenticity, right? And that's absolutely essential. I mean, I've had advisors tell me, Rahul, stupid stuff which we may not even think of. This was 2006, just when the iPhone 3 launched, and I had a Windows phone, right? And one of these advisors walks in, we're doing a capital raise in the Bay Area, and he's like, what the F are you doing with this phone? He's like, you need an iPhone, and I don't want to repeat it again. Like, dude, I just bought this Windows phone,
You're the one.
Well, thankfully I listened, right? I did not believe it. And these same advisors, these same mentors, actually, for the first time, they also told me that my startup, when I was exhausted, they were like, Rahul, we are all aligned that, you know what, you need to transition out. You need to get out of this place. It's too toxic. We've seen this story play out. This may be your baby that you have grown and started to run for 12 years. You need to walk away. Write all your negative thoughts on a piece of paper, go to the backyard, burn it, turn around, never look back. And imagine, you started this company, you grew it all over the world, you got strategics, I put in place an executive team, and I did that. So again, these were the experiences from a mentor perspective. And right now, I was on the board of Lema 21, which was the Warby Parker of Brazil. Again, he was my mentee. I've written his recommendation, he went to HBS, then moved to Brazil. There's another mentee right now who's at Stanford, pursuing his MBA. So it's just great to help people and pass on what you gain. That's my only goal from being a mentor. So that's my story on mentors and mentees.
Steve and Dan, maybe could go a little bit deeper, maybe at this point on some of the work.
Dan, Steve, I think would love your thoughts, but I can say from my perspective, you got to think in terms of your frequency of contact. How do you build an effective mentor relationship? How do you leverage your mentor effectively, right? So first of all, I think you want to find a mentor. Mentors have different motivations, and you'll be able to tell who's financially motivated and who's you motivated. Don't spend your time, money on the financial guy. They'll want equity. You'll get a sense how they want to participate with you at that time. First, you want them to be focused on you and your success. So first of all, go through that. Second is, as a mentee, I'd probably say communication style is really, really important. So I would say frequency of contact. If you want to build an effective mentor-mentee relationship as a mentee, you have to be able to determine what is the right level of frequency of contact. So that's number one. Number two is, what's the right level of the topic that you want to reach, right? So some people have this desire to get very much into the weeds, and some mentors like that. Others may not. I'm told, hey, should I pick a red colored button on my website? I don't mind giving my viewpoint once. It's not very beneficial long term. Right, so I think the second part is the right level of the topic that you reach with your mentor. And you got to get a sense where they land, right? So frequency of contact, right? Some people like, short daily messaging, and that's fine. Some people may like a long one paragraph. Very rarely have I seen anybody who wants more than a few lines, but maybe once a week or once in 2 weeks. So frequency of contact, the right level of topic, and then third is the right ask. Right, so you got to be very careful when you make your asks. Like it has to be crystal clear what you want your mentor to help you on. And what's your ask? Do you want a relationship to be opened up? Do you want a strategic insight? Do you want a personal? And don't conflate and confuse too many topics at one go. Keep it very simple and clear on one topic. And that's why sometimes you have to break your topics into 5 topics and change the frequency, change the right level of topic you're asking. So broadly, I would say to be an effective mentor, you got to focus on the communication, and that's the way I'm thinking about the communication pattern. And now these guys can disagree.
I guess, so this may be a little too straight blunt, but I guess sometimes for me, like, I guess I think about it on 2 sides. When I kind of recognize someone I want to get as a mentor, I almost think of it kind of as mentor dating, where I basically kind of say, okay, this person looks interesting, like, I feel like I get along with them. I want to like see if this could be a better fit. And then I'm actually like very strategic about it, where like, I'll reach out to them, like to get coffee, to get to know them better. And then kind of, in a way, it like, originally it's like it's kind of forcing it, but then it kind of grows organically when it is a good fit. And that's for me is like really happened when I think about mentors that have come out of kind of more working relationships or just just meeting them, randomly at a networking event like this or something, and relationships that have come out of that have been incredibly helpful. And then they've just really grown through the years. But I think, from the mentee side, the onus is really on you to keep it up, especially in the beginning, because if you don't, it's not like the person's gonna reach out. And then I think for me personally, on the mentor side, I kind of view it as I wouldn't be where I am today if all of these other people hadn't helped me along the way. And it's just like my career is really in part to every single person who's helped me, and I really want to give back. So I kind of, whenever anyone ever reaches out to me, I kind of always start the conversation as, I want you to view this not just as a 30-minute conversation, but as the beginning of a long-term relationship, if you would like to reach out and kind of really open that door. But then at the same time, it's also on them to kind of continue that relationship. So that's kind of how, in my experience, that I've done it.
So it also sets up the two-way street. There's a get aspect of the relationship or your communication. There's a give aspect of your relationship. I would recommend that the give aspect of your communication should be 5 times the get aspect. So when I say get, it's like, hey, can you help me give some insight? Or can you, those 3 things that I said, right? Insight, opening doors, relationship, whatever. So those are the get parts. The give parts you should be giving 5 times, right? At least. So what do you give? Well, you'll know, for example, Dan may know Steve he was a CFO. He likes some really interesting financial stuff. I may find an article. Hey, Steve, I saw this really cool thing that Mihir Desai has been talking on finance. I thought I'd send it to you. Right? And you may not get a response. Don't expect a response. The act of giving is the entire outcome. And you'll have to figure out who likes what. Right? Or sometimes you may say, hey, I heard you're going to be in LA. There's, my friend's selling Taylor Swift tickets. Right? Again, I'm not like, you have to build a give mentality even when you're getting.
I mean, it's really simple to me because I just like getting my gray matter engaged. And it's just, thinking, caring, you get all these, somebody knows what they are in the brain that fire off when you enjoy interacting with somebody, but to me, it's just activate my gray matter, give me something else to care about, and I'm happy. And it can be a hello, it can be a good day, bad day. I've been told I'm the world's shortest emailer, so hello, that's a lot of letters. But it's just kind of, it's just engage and you'll see if it works. You know, I've had folks that I thought would be great relationships over time, and they're not. You know, to your point, right? It's like you meet someone and say, wow, this is great, wow, that's not. Right, it's just sometimes it doesn't work, but at the end of the day, it's about, you know, what do you need? I don't need a cup of coffee, I don't need a dinner, I don't need Taylor Swift tickets, I just wanna be able to keep my gray matter going and think about things and engage with someone that I can help. It's kind of fun.
And wish people birthdays, their kids things, there's so many, it's life, it's not.
Yeah, old people like to be reminded of birthdays, you're right.
Just wish them a 22nd birthday, there you go, every day, every time, every year.
But I guess one other thing to your point of maybe sometimes it's helpful as we're talking about engaging, sometimes it's the what not to do. So I think back in all of my time mentoring, I think the one time I was just like, can this person leave me alone? There's been like one time and one person that's happened to, and I think he reached out to get coffee or lunch every week. And it wasn't someone I was like, you know, it was just like, it was more of like a tangential relationship. And it wasn't someone that we were at, and we just didn't really click, and it was trying to force it. But like monthly, like lunches or coffees, that's a lot. So I would say like sometimes it's like, it's helpful to say like, you know, we're keep telling you to like engage, but sometimes it's helpful to know like, okay, what's too much? At least in that situation for me, that was too much. And it was funny because I think he was trying to get mentors from a lot of us. And I think he did it to everyone, and we were just like, okay, step back a little. But I would say like, I think that sometimes it's helpful to see the other side of the coin.
Frequency.
Yeah.
Well, we're at time. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.